Hello everyone, and welcome to my General Hospital official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The Ashfords and those gathered at the Savoy were taken aback when Rick announced that Heather's sentence would be vacated and she would be released the next day. Portia immediately broke down and began yelling at Rick. Curtis swiftly blamed Rick while defending himself. He didn't believe the judge would liberate Heather. Curtis asked Rick what he believed would happen. Rick assumed Heather would have been sent to a mental health center or a minimum security prison. Rick reminded Portia and Trina that Heather no longer had cobalt poisoning, therefore she was unlikely to pose a concern. That provided no consolation to the Ashfords. "Thank you for unleashing a monster and knowingly putting my daughter's life at risk," she said. "I swear to you, this is not what I wanted," Rick exclaimed hurriedly. Curtis accused Rick of only wanting money. He believed Heather's independence would help Rick get a large payout from the medical equipment business that built Heather's replacement hip. Molly intervened to try to defuse the tension. "Blaming my father isn't the answer," Molly explained. She pointed out that the judge made the decision, which he was entitled to do. TJ was as outraged as Portia, Curtis, and Trina. He couldn't believe Molly would support Rick. TJ stormed out of the nightclub, leading Rick to leave with Molly. Love General Hospital, B&B, Days, or other soap operas? Join the debate on our SC forums. Click here to interact with fans and participate in debates immediately. Portia and Curtis persisted on taking Trina home with them, but she refused. Curtis and Portia refused to take no for an answer, telling their daughter that they would all be safer under one roof. Trina correctly pointed out that Heather hadn't even been freed yet, so there was nothing to worry about that night. However, she did not want to hide or cower. "I spent a year frightened of a psychopath murderer, allowing Heather and Esme to dictate my every movement. I simply refused to go back to that," Trina stated. After Trina left, Portia addressed the elephant in the room. "Do you know what I want to ask the judge? What if Trina were Molly or Jocelyn Jacks? Would his decision be the same? If a serial killer was obsessed with a young white woman rather than a young black woman, would he be free right now?" she questioned Curtis. "Unfortunately, we both know the answer to that question," Curtis replied with sadness. Portia was heartbroken that a young black woman was not appreciated as highly as a white one. She was resolved to send Trina out of town to keep her safe. Curtis argued that Trina would never want to leave. "Trina won't leave Port Charles. Heather is. Heather Weber will never be a problem again," Curtis assured. Trina returned home and heard a knock on the door. Trina quickly grabbed a kitchen item to use as a weapon, but her guest turned out to be Gio. Gio stopped by to be the buddy she needed at the time. Gio believed Trina could communicate her emotions via music in the same way he did. Jocelyn and Dex returned to Dex's flat. Jocelyn was horrified by the thought of Heather's release, given that Heather attempted to kill her but instead killed Britt. Jocelyn pointed out that Trina was Heather's primary aim. She couldn't imagine how her pal might be feeling. Jocelyn even admitted that Britt and Dex saved her life that night. "Do you ever wish that you killed her?" Jocelyn asked. "All the time," Dex said before adding, "if Heather even thinks about hurting you, it will be the last thing she ever does." Jocelyn implored Dex not to jeopardize his job for her. Molly urged Rick to leave her flat before TJ arrived home and found him there. Rick questioned Molly about how she and TJ were getting along. She stated that they often avoided each other. Rick thanked Molly for defending him. "You didn't have to," Rick replied. Molly responded, "For the record, you didn't have to take Heather's case." Molly hoped Rick was correct about Heather, that she can be a functioning member of society. Molly immediately shifted the conversation to another of Rick's cases, pointing out that it was not too late to dump Ava as a client. "Why should I drop Ava as a client?" Rick asked. Molly was stunned when she said Ava was the reason her baby died. Rick disagreed and explained to Molly why he was defending Ava. "Molly, I am not doing this for Ava. I'm doing this for you," Rick explained. Rick explained to Molly that her vengeance terrified her. That's me, Molly. I never wanted to see this in my young girl. I've committed mistakes throughout my life, all motivated by a desire to collect what I was owed. I'm not claiming I've moved past that goal, but I'm learning to see when it's damaging, Rick remarked. Rick reminded Molly that it was his responsibility to explain the facts of the case so that she believed Christina's fall was an accident. I have to prove this to you, Molly, so you can move on and heal, Rick said her. Rick finally got Molly to open up about everything wrong in her life, including her tense relationship with TJ. Rick claimed that Christina's collapse was not Ava's responsibility until Molly furiously told him to leave. Isaiah approached Lucas in the staff lounge and asked if he was prepared for the transplant procedure the next day. Lucas was pleased by Isaiah's experience doing liver transplants on patients with portal vein thrombosis and requested him to explain his method. Isaiah was more concerned about Lucas participating in a transplant involving his own sister and cousin. Lucas informed Isaiah that it was not his choice, but Sam insisted. Lucas wasn't particularly nervous, but he suspected Isaiah may be. After all, Isaiah hadn't operated in years, and now you're signing on to a transplant that has a very high likelihood of failure. After Isaiah left, TJ joined Lucas in the lounge because he thought it was a better option than returning home. At least I'm not in a bar, TJ said before lamenting his relationship issues. He couldn't believe Molly was more emotional defending Rick than she was after the baby died. Lucas' situation was different, but he told TJ that he had been through the loss of a kid and the effects it had on a relationship. Sonny was interested by Holly's discussion of a business idea and wanted further information. Holly added that Luke had spoken highly of Sonny, and she thought he could be interested in a business connection. Sonny knew Holly was in trouble, and she would not have mentioned Luke so quickly. Holly explained that she wanted some things moved and hoped Sonny could assist. She even discussed Jason's adventure in Africa. Holly then asked Sonny for discretion, but before he could react, Diane entered. As soon as she saw Holly, she fled. Sonny and Holly resumed talking. Sonny was curious about what Holly had in her bag, so she showed him Sidwell's raw diamonds. Sonny's face quickly brightened up. Holly assured Sonny that the gems couldn't be tracked, but Sonny pointed out the obvious. Someone had them before they got to you, so they are going to want them back, he told you. Holly stated that her primary focus was liquidating the diamonds so that she could soon leave Port Charles. Sonny stated that he didn't generally traffic diamonds, but he would help Holly in exchange for a 30% piece of her profits. Holly tried to persuade Sonny to drop his request, but he refused, informing her that she wasn't his type. Holly agreed to evaluate his request and left him a diamond as a good faith deposit. In the GH locker room, Lucas noticed Isaiah picturing the procedure as a pre-op routine. When Isaiah left, Lucas discovered an Eckert's Danish in his locker just as Brad approached and reminded him that he needed to eat something from the bakery before surgery. Lucas was upset that Brad had overstepped his boundaries, but Brad explained that he had purchased Eckert's for the staff and couldn't pass up giving Lucas a treat before surgery. The two had an unpleasant moment when Lucas' towel slipped off. Brad suggested Lucas get a mole looked out before leaving. Jason walked inside Sonny's office at his request. Sonny promptly tossed him one of Holly's jewels as a request. I think it's time you tell me what really went on in Africa, Sonny was saying. Jason described his and Anna's encounters with Sidwell, as well as how Holly assisted them in their escape. He asked Sonny if Holly had handed him the diamond. Sonny told him sure, and Holly had several more. When Jason inquired how many, Sonny said, enough to know Holly's trouble, but she might be the kind of trouble that's worth it. Love General Hospital, B&B, Days, or other soap operas? Join the debate on our SC forums. Click here to interact with fans and participate in debates immediately. Sonny wanted to cooperate with Holly, but Jason cautioned him that Sidwell could come after him. Sonny assumed Sidwell had died, but Jason revealed that he had lived and was in the United States seeking for Holly. Jason stated that he made a mistake by leaving Sidwell alive. Sonny only wanted to move the diamonds quickly, but not today because they both needed to go to the hospital. Alexis sat with Danny and Scout for breakfast before heading to the hospital to visit Sam. Scout wondered if Aunt Molly and Aunt Christina would be present. Alexis said no, and Danny pointed out that Sam didn't want to make a big deal about the procedure. But this is a major deal. Mom is saving someone's life, Scout stated. When Scout cleaned her hands in the restroom, Alexis complimented Danny on his big brother skills. I think you're awesome, and so is your mom, Alexis added. Brennan called Carly and said they needed to meet. Carly had to decline, explaining that she was at the hospital for an essential reason. Carly entered Sam's room. It's going to take a miracle for Lulu to pull through this surgery, but what matters is she's getting a chance because of you, Carly claimed. Sam shrugged it off, claiming she was simply doing what anyone would do. Sam also questioned what Carly truly desired. Carly admitted she only wanted to say thank you. As Carly and Sam were bonding, Brennan walked in and told her he needed to talk to her right immediately. When Sam was alone again, Alexis came by with Danny and Scout. Sam had Alexis promise to take her children to school, but Alexis couldn't stop complimenting Sam on how incredible she was for saving a life. Sam was enjoying her time with her children and mother until Dante, Rocco, and Sunny arrived. Thank you so much, Sam. You are going to save my mother's life. I don't know how I'll ever repay you, Rocco said. Brennan and Carly went outdoors to discuss. Brennan wanted Carly to get Jason to collaborate and tell them more about what happened in Africa when he rescued Lucky. After all, he assisted her when she requested. Carly questioned why Brennan went out on a limb for her. If you have to ask, you're not as smart as I thought you were, Brennan told you. Jason soon appeared and interrupted their talk. When you called, you didn't say he'd be here, Jason said me. Carly didn't care. She needed a favor, but Jason wondered if it was really for Brennan. Jack needs to know what happened in Africa, Carly stated. An enraged Jason stated that he had already told Jack what had transpired and had nothing else to say. Jack was certain Jason had left anything out. Carly ultimately persuaded Jason to speak before walking away. Jason admitted that Holly was up to something. Brennan instantly realized Holly had taken something precious from Sidwell. It was diamonds. She stole a fortune from him, Jason explained. Laura maintained vigil at Lulu's bedside, assuring her that help was on its way thanks to Sam. When Laura looked back, she noticed Dante and Rocco by the door. Rocco strolled up to his mother's bed, leaving Dante and Laura wondering if Lulu would recognize him if she ever awoke. In the hospital waiting room, Rocco later pleaded Dante not to send him to school. Dante stated that they would leave the decision to Sam. Dante and Sam went away while Isaiah approached Laura, informing her that it was time to prepare Lulu for surgery. Isaiah stated that Lulu was taking anticoagulants to thin her blood clot, but there were no promises. My daughter has been battling for her life since she was a tiny little kid and has won. Laura added, if you give her the chance today, she will win again. When Sam was brought into surgery, her loved ones gathered to wish her well. Jason arrived just in time for him and Sam to exchange knowing eyes before turning to face their son. Sam raised her hand to show the deuces sign as she was taken away. Rick sat down with Heather in the Pentonville visitor area. Heather instantly stated that she missed Alexis. Rick was astonished to hear her say that, but then he informed her that he had some news. Heather's sentence had been vacated, and she was scheduled to be released. Heather was surprised and assumed Rick was joking. Rick told her he wasn't. Heather assumed she'd be sent to a minimum security prison with a volleyball court, but Rick assured her that she would be released. She was not even going to be on parole. Heather was about to jump for delight when she realized how big the news was. She embraced Rick and promised to make the most of her second chance. Heather intended to head straight to Kelly's for a BLT, not aware that the diner had been renamed Bobby's. Rick attempted to bring Heather back to Earth by reminding her that she would need money and a place to live. Heather expected Laura to take her in, but Rick informed her that Laura was going through a family problem. Heather proposed Alexis next, but Rick warned her that Alexis was experiencing the same crisis as Laura. Just drop me off at Quartermain's. Heather stated, I can hang out there for weeks without anyone knowing I'm there. Heather eventually called Elizabeth to tell her the great news and requested if Liz could pick her up in Pentonville for Franco's sake. Before Liz could respond, she noticed Rick approaching toward her. Rick informed Liz that Heather needed a place to stay, but he disliked the notion of Heather being alone with Liz and Aiden. However, he made a suggestion. "I could move in too," Rick said, eliciting loud laughter from Elizabeth. Elizabeth approached Portia at the nurse's station. Liz had heard of Heather's release and inquired what she could do to assist Portia's family. Portia only wanted to focus on Lulu and Sam's operations. She stated that she would not be focusing on Heather and would delegate responsibility to Curtis. Elizabeth cautioned Portia to be careful. Heather has a powerful ally in Rick, and if he gets wind that you're moving against his client, he will respond in kind, Liz informed her companion. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, so please don't forget to subscribe my channel and don't miss any update.